A little bit of geometrical conversions today that are really challenging for a lot of people, right? So it's going to take a little bit of practice to get good at it. But here's the main thing. If we can look up the basic conversion rate of first dimensional stuff, there's always things in one dimension, you know, like lines. There's things in two dimensions, like area. It's got length and width, you know, two dimensions. And then there's volume. It's got length, width, and height. I care about one-dimensional stuff. So are you cool that this length right here in pink is 1 foot? But it's also 12 inches. Are you with me on that? 1 foot is 12 inches. When they ask how many square feet or how many square inches are in a square foot, all you have to do is take your basic conversion rate. There are 12 inches in a foot, and square it. Do you remember what squaring means? It means take it times itself. So grab a calculator and punch with me. You could take 12 raised to the second power, or if you can't find that, have your neighbor show you where it's at. But you could also take 12 times 12, and did you get 144 of those? In 1 square foot, this pink guy right here is a foot by a foot. There is 144 square inches in that guy. So how did I figure that out? I took my basic conversion number of 1 foot equals 12 inches, and I squared it. Why did I square it? Because that's the unit they wanted me to convert it to. Just like 1 yard isn't 1 yard if you write this at the top, 3 feet. Like if I give you that conversion rate in linear units, like to the first power, if they want to know how many square feet are in a square yard, all you do is take the number that's in the conversion rate and do that to it. You would square it, right? 3 squared, punching that guy in. It's 3 times 3, which is 9. Are we okay with where that came from? I took 3 and squared it. And we usually get pretty good at the square feet to square yards and all that, but when we get into cubic, that's really, really hard for people. 1 cubic foot is 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. You need to take 12 and cube it this time. 12 to the third. That means 12 times 12 times 12, which is a big number of 1728, baby. So those were just a little warm-ups. Now let's get into the problems that you'll kind of see on homework. How many cubic feet are in a cubic yard? I don't care about that right now. I just want to write down how many feet are in a yard. Blank feet equal 1 yard. Do we know the answer to that, or do we have to look it up? Do you want me to provide it for you? How many feet are in a yard? 3. And guess what I will do to the number 3? This is not the answer to the question. I need to do what this word says. Cubic means cube it, like raise it to the third power. So we can do that in a calculator. 3 to the third. I want to make sure you know how to type it in. And that's 3 times 3 times 3. Did you get 27 back on that? 27. So 27 is the answer to that question. And then the next one, how many square feet are in a square mile? Don't care about that right now. I will always provide this number for you. Isn't there 5,280 feet in 1 mile? That's like the basic conversion rate right there. Guess what we need to do to this number right here when they ask me how many square feet are in a square mile? Take 5,280 and square it. Punch that in the calculator, baby. That's going to be a big one. 5,280 to the second, or squared, however you end up doing it, but that's a big number. I'm going to write that whole thing down and then go back and put commas. So 27878400. Every 3 spaces backwards, I'm going to put a comma. Make sure I wrote it down right. That's a lot. All right. So let's do a few of these problems. I want to eliminate some of them also. We're not doing the whole worksheet today. So let's rock this guy. A box has dimensions of 14 what? 14 what? Inches by 23 inches by 19 inches. How many cubic feet is this? Here's my method. There are so many ways to do this. I'll bet you'll like this way the most. If we just change these into feet first, right? They want the answer in cubic feet. We're going to change it to feet. And I will give you this. 1 foot equals 12 inches. Are you with me on that? 1 foot equals 12 inches. So watch this move. This is 14 inches. I would like to change it into feet, so since inches is upstairs, shouldn't I put inches downstairs on this guy? And then I will have the 1 upstairs. Are you with me on that conversion rate right there? Could you tell me what ends up happening here? Would I have 12 times 14 or 14 over 12? What would I end up having? When I multiply these out, what would I get? 14 over 12. And that's all I want you to use. I don't care that that reduces. If you punch that in, that's going to be a stupid decimal, right? It's probably going to come out pretty nasty most of the time. We are going to use, I want you to write down 14/12 and put it in parentheses. And this gives you the secret to success. Every one of these you just have to divide by 12 to put it into feet right here. So 23 inches is going to be 23/12 feet. And 19 inches is going to be 19/12 feet. I just wanted to change them all into feet first. Weird little fractions, but the calculator is going to do all the work for you. And I think if you put stuff in parentheses, it will be no problems whatsoever. To find the volume, I take the length times the width times the height. So I'm going to do 14 divided by 12 in parentheses times 23 divided by 12 in parentheses times whatever the other one was, 19 divided by 12 in parentheses. Hit equals on that, baby. How many cubic feet? Let's round that to 1 decimal place. Round it to the nearest tenth. Should that be 3.5 or 3.6? 3.5. So about 3.5. The label is feet cubed. They call it cubic feet. Sometimes they call it feet cubed. Okie dokie dokie. One more of those. Kind of weird. Charlie is going to put new tile in his bathroom. The room is a rectangle that is 8 feet by 6 feet. The tile he's going to put in there, it's 8 inches by 8 inches. How many tiles will he need? Easiest move, convert to the smaller unit. Who is smaller, a foot or an inch? Who is smaller? Inch. So let's change these into inches first. How do you change feet into inches? Times 12. Grab your calculator. Take 8 times 12 for me. How much? 96. So this is 96 inches. Putting the labels will help you look back when we take a quiz. Change 6 feet into inches by taking 6 times 12. And did you get 72 inches, right? Are you okay with that? And what we have to do is, because this is a spatial thing, they're going to lay tiles down in the room, is we have to find the area of each one of these guys first, right? So area of a rectangle is just length times width. So let's do area of the room. Put a little A, area of the room. And it's 96 times 72. And we got to punch that guy in. 96 times 72. 6912. 6912 inches squared. Let's find the area of a tile. Use the different colors, what I was trying to do. Area of a tile. The tile is 8 inches by 8 inches, so 8 times 8. What is the area of a tile? 64 square inches. So I found the area of the room in square inches. I found the area of the tile in square inches, and now I just got to see how many of those go in there. How many tiles can I put in with simple division? Take the big number divided by the small number. So taking notes for yourself so you can see what you did. We're going to take the 6912 divided by 64. 6912 divided by 64, and 108. You need 108 tiles is the answer to that question. So I found the area of the room and the area of the tile, and I divided them. But I had to change them to like inches first. I think that would be easier than doing it in feet. You know, it's just too fractiony, too decimal-y kind of stuff. We're going to skip number 5, if that's okay with you, right? And then we're going to go to my concrete problems. Concrete is volume, right? There's length to it, there's width to it, and there's depth to it, right? So what's crazy about concrete is, if you've ever ordered concrete, I know you might not have ordered it, but maybe you know people who do, they sell it by the cubic yard, right? They measure it all in cubic yards, which they don't even call cubic yards. They just call it yards in the real world. It's like, how many yards of concrete do we need for this? We're going to call it cubic yards. And the easy way to do it is to convert every dimension that they give you into yards first. So, are you down with 1 foot equals 3 yards? You might want to write that conversion rate down if you're not good with that. 1 foot right here is, I got that backwards, I'm so sorry, a little ahead of myself. 1 yard is 3 feet. I was like, that didn't sound right, I apologize, made a mistake. 1 yard equals 3 feet. Sorry. But are you down with this is like a yardstick right here, if you've ever seen that before. Can you see how there's like 3 different feet that would go into that? It's going to take 3 feet, 1, 2, 3, to make a yard in that situation. Cool? So here's what we'll do. They give me, this is literally true also, because I'm a baseball coach. We poured some new catcher's pads down in the bullpen last winter. It was 13 feet wide, 32 feet long, and 4 inches thick. We'll deal with that in a second. All these different dimensions, right? So I had to calculate how much concrete do we need to order. Well, I changed it all into yards first. 13 feet. You know what I need to do to that is divide it by 3. And I'm just going to write it 13 over 3. 13 feet is 13/3 yards. Just got to divide it by 3. Same thing with this, 32 feet, I'm going to divide it by 3. And the reason why I'm not cleaning them up is because they don't come out nice, right? So I'm just leaving them this weird little fraction. But here's the beauty of this visual aid. Let's stop for a second. This is a foot. How many inches? 12, right? But then I have to do another 12 and another 12, right? Could you tell me how many inches are in a yard? Isn't there 36 inches in a yard? So you might want to write that down if you need that measurement. You know, like 1 yard equals 36 inches because you had to do 12 3 times. Like 3 times 12 is 36. Why did I do that? Because this little dog right here isn't in feet, he's in inches. So this is 436 yards. You'll always divide by that number to change it into yards. And since this is volume, we will do this. Grab your calculator and let's multiply those together as fractions. I'll let you do it and then you check it with mine. So punching them all in, I put them in like that. And what's going to happen is it probably comes out nasty, right? They very rarely will come out nice. Did you get this right here? About 5 point blah, 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 right? So here's what we got to do. I'm going to say that's about 5.3 cubic yards. But now, welcome to why this is contemporary math. We have to use common sense. That is the mathematical answer that they want. But you can't just call up like Ellis County Concrete and go, I need 5.3 cubic yards. They sell it by the half of a cubic yard. So how many cubic yards would we have to order? I'll give you 3 choices. 5 cubic yards, 5.5 cubic yards, or 6 cubic yards. They sell it by the half of a cubic yard. That's why I put 5.5 in there. Are you with me? So what would that round to? 5, 5.5, or 6. You always have to round it up because let's just pretend this was 5.1, just out of curiosity. Everybody knows that 5.1 is closer to 5 than it is to 5.5, right? But why would 5 not be good enough? Because you don't have enough, right? You need more than 5 cubic yards, right? So you always have to round it up. We had 5.3. You were correct. We're going to order 5.5 cubic yards, if I can get my label right. You round it up to the nearest 0.5. So 5.3 rounds up to 5.5. That's kind of weird. But if you ordered less, you wouldn't have enough. If you ordered 6 cubic yards, I just want to kind of give you a small visualization. You see this blue tub? It's tough to see. See these big blue tubs right here? That's 1/3 of a cubic yard. It's not even look how tall that is. It's not even a yard tall. It's not even a yard wide, right? But it is a yard long. A cubic yard is a lot, right? So could you imagine if you ordered way too much concrete? I think you don't have space for it. What do you do with it? You dump it out on the ground and just let it become a giant rock. And then you got to break it up and throw it away. Nobody wants to do that. Plus it costs about $150 for a cubic yard. They don't want to waste that money either, So that's why we don't order 6 cubic yards, because that's too much, right? It's too much concrete, 5.5. So let's do that again. Could you and a neighbor change those into yards for me? You got to divide him by 3, and him by 36. Change them all into yards for me. So I had 35 thirds, 38 thirds, and 6/36. Now we're going to multiply them all together. Just using parentheses. The phone calculator might not do a good job with this. You might want to come grab a calculator today later when we do it. And 6/36. And boom. I like to jot that number down, like 24.6. Is that what you got? Did I type it in right? 24.6, right? But that's not what the answer is going to be, because we have to round it, and so will homework. We'll make you round it to the nearest 0.5 of a cubic yard. Should that be 24 cubic yards, 24.5 cubic yards, or 25 cubic yards? You always have to round up. What do you want? 25. You got to round it up. Even though it's closer to 24.5, you got to round it up. You need to order 25 cubic yards of concrete. That's a lot. That's 2.5 cement trucks. Every cement truck can hold 10. Some of them hold 8, you know, like that. That's how much a cubic yard is, you know. All right, last problem of the day is painting a room. I would go out on a limb and take a wild guess that everyone in here sometime in their life will probably paint a room, be it a bedroom or this. Maybe you'll pay somebody to do it too, but you'll have it done in your house someday. You know what I mean? We got to paint, right? So it's a very realistic thing. What we do is we use a cool little formula. There's a long way to do this, and there's a short way to do it. I want to try the short way with a little formula. So here's a room. We're just going to forget about doors and windows and all that stuff. We're just going to pretend we're going to paint it, right? And it's rectangular. So let's do this. When you have these on homework, I would suggest sketching a little box like this so you can get that. The room measures 20 feet. I'm going to do this, 20 feet long. Put that in the picture. 24 feet wide and 8 feet high. And somebody asks a great question, how did you know the 20 went there and the 24 went in the other spot? The truth is, on the two blue numbers, they don't matter which one's which. Does the height of the room make a difference, though? You know, so are you cool that the height of the room is 8 feet tall? So check it out. On the other page, I put a formula for you about lateral area of a box right here. It's in this formula right here. I might have even typed it on this worksheet. But what we're going to do is figure that out the long way. It says, what is the area of the four walls, a.k.a. the lateral area? I missaid it. I said we're going to figure out the short way. Write this formula down for me. Lateral area, that's a big capital LA. It's going to equal P times H. And in that formula sheet that you get to use on quizzes, I told you P stands for the perimeter of the base, right? And H stands for the height. How do you feel about this? Bing, 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 bing. Is that like the perimeter of the base? Are you cool with that? So that means just add them all up. So I don't care that you write the 20 feet again and the 24 feet again, but grab your old calculator and add 20 plus 24 plus 20 plus 24. See what you get. How much does that turn out to be? 88, is that right? And what's the height of the room in this case? The height is 8. So instead of finding the area of all four of those rectangles and adding them together, this is the shortcut, right? You just take the perimeter of the base and take it times the height. So 88 times 8, is how much, baby? 704. Cool. That's the answer to part A on homework, 704. They might need to have you put a label on it. It might be like a drop down, but it is feet squared. It's still an area, right? It's a lateral area, so that's in square feet. What's the area of the ceiling? Like, you do have to paint the ceiling of your house, usually, unless it's tile like this, but most people have sheetrock up there. What's the area of the ceiling? How do you feel about that being 20 feet by 24 feet? Is that still okay with you? That's like the ceiling. So we'll do 20 times 24. Those are notes so you can look back and see what you did when it's quiz time. It's like, oh, I took 20 times 24. So that is 480, is that right? Yes, 480 square feet. So does it make sense to you that we got to paint all four walls? That's everything here in green. Got to paint that wall, that wall, that wall, and that wall, right? And if we had a sheetrock ceiling, we would also paint the ceiling as well, right? But guess what we don't paint? You don't paint the floor because you either put like carpet on there or tile on there or wood flooring, you know, like you don't paint that, you know what I mean? But everything else gets painted. So we add up all the way around, that's called the lateral area, and then you add your ceiling together. So 704 plus 480 is 1184. Is that okay? So this is what people do when they're ready to paint. They kind of just rough calculate how many square feet do we got to paint. How many gallons of paint will it take? I think you guys understand paint comes by the gallon. Yes, you can get it in 5-gallon buckets. Yes, you can get it in quarts also, but most people just buy it by the gallon, right? How many gallons of paint? Well, they better give us some sort of conversion rate. How many gallons of paint? Let's say 4 walls in the ceiling. It says up here, right? It says up here. So here's what we'll do. We'll take our 1184 square feet, which is what we did right here, and we'll do the same thing as last time. They'll give us this conversion rate, and you see how square feet is upstairs in this label right here? We'll put square feet downstairs. And that's 350 for 1 gallon. If you can do this without writing it down, doesn't hurt my feelings one bit, but some people need to see what to do with that 350. The square feet is upstairs, the square feet needs to go downstairs. Could you tell me what you would end up doing with that 350 now that you see it written out? Would you multiply by 350 or would you divide by 350? Top times top, 1184. Bottom times bottom, what would you do? Multiply or divide? You would divide. 1184 divided by 350. Uh-oh. Didn't come out nice. I got roughly 3.4. Are you cool with that? About 3.4. If you have never painted a brand new room before, especially if you're painting it a different color or anything like that, you realize that painting it with one coat isn't enough. It's too like nasty looking. You got to paint it like a second time so you get 2 jobs with it, right? So you need 3.4 gallons, but that's not our final answer. That's what it's going to take. You need to now to do 2 coats, take 3.4, the rounded number, times 2. Right? Because you got to paint the room twice. And I got 6.8 gallons is what's needed. When you go to Walmart or Home Depot or Ace Hardware or wherever to buy this paint, you cannot buy 6.8 gallons of paint. How many gallons of paint will you need? You always have to round it up. Even if that was 6.1 gallons of paint, you got to buy a 7th gallon of paint to make it work, right? So always rounding those up. Cool? Good day. Let's do some homework. If I assigned it to you. I think I did.